Hello, I'm Selena Cochran, and I'm the digital learning coach at Porter Elementary, and welcome to our PLC classroom. In here, I, along with my administration, meet weekly with all of our teachers by grade level to break down, collaborate, and plan. There's always a PLC agenda that is linked in our PLC Google Classroom. Each week, as a digital learning coach, I get to collaborate with our district digital coaching team to create an agenda that keeps our meetings focused and our district united. We always include discussions about our pacing guides, resources being tracked and utilized, weekly and unit assessment results, and data breakdown from iReady. I attach them in our PLC Google Classroom so that teachers have access to them prior to our meeting so they can see any materials that may be needed for our discussion, as well as being able to access the links and resources during and after the meeting. Today, this is our agenda. My goal is to just share with you our PLC mission, which is to work together to problem solve, to plan curriculum, to divide up the workload, and to develop a plan for student success. I hope to share with you how we strive to remove barriers and serve our teachers and our students. And I hope you also get to see ways that we use data to drive our instruction, particularly with iReady. I have with us today our iReady consultant who plans to share some resources with you a little later. So at the beginning of the year, we are in year 2 with iReady, and we always give our students a diagnostic assessment. Within our very first PLC meeting, we get the results of those diagnostic assessments, and we like to pull up that data and break it down. Some things that we might look at here, you can see where I've clicked on a student individually, and it shows me each domain and how that student assessed, as well as providing for us a typical growth goal for that student and a stretch growth goal. A typical growth goal is where a typical student or an average student in that grade level that took that assessment and placed where that student placed. It gives you an amount of points as what a typical student might gain throughout that entire year, which helps us with our individual leadership notebooks. So we might provide a student with a potential amount of points that they should strive to gain. A stretch growth goal provides us with information. You can see that dotted line is how many points that they might need to get back on grade level or to get above, or to get back on track or to get above grade level. So you can see here that this student scored a 589, tested out of several areas, still on grade level, mid 4th grade level, in certain areas, and then it gives you their typical growth goal and a stretch growth goal and how many points that they should strive to gain. Another thing that we look at is historical reports. So this is a really great tool for us to utilize, especially with our first parent-teacher conferences. We like to look at where a student may have finished the year and then where they placed that very first diagnostic at the beginning of the year. And you can see here this particular student, grade 4, in August of 21, finished or was with diagnostic 1 on mid 4th grade level. And you can see growth or gains being made. In April of 22, this particular student had already jumped all the way up to grade 6, which is just excellent. You can see the areas and domains in which they've tested out of or grew in. Another thing that we love about iReady is that it provides for us instructional groupings. And so this is super helpful for our teachers. It, based on that diagnostic assessment, it divides students into groups for you. And you can see here, like in group 1, you have 17 students. That may be your enrichment or your RTI students. Then you can see here, no students in group 2, 27 students in group 3. And that's your probably your on-level students. And I didn't share with you student information here. And then you can see 6 students in group 4, 11 students in group 5. And not only does it share with you those instructional groupings, but it also provides resources and tools for you to utilize within those small group lessons. So here you get an insight to a prerequisite lesson. It provides for you enrichment recommendations for those students who assessed above or tested out of a grade level. It provides additional support. And it also gives you that in-depth review and suggestions for reteaching in those small group settings. We always, in our PLCs, look at pathways. So what's really unique about iReady is that once it gives you that diagnostic assessment, it places students on a pathway that's individualized and meets them where they're at, and it closes gaps to get them where they want to go. And so we look at, our students, the lessons that they're on. Are they passing? Are they failing? How long are they spending on each lesson? And at Porter, we have a school-wide goal for every student to spend 30 to 45 minutes per subject per week. And we also strive for each student to pass 2 lessons in each subject. So we want them to pass 2 reading and 2 math each week. And on Friday, if you saw our school-wide scoreboard, those victories are announced and those points are added into their house points. So it's a really big deal, and students really work hard and strive to pass those lessons. You can also, we like to break down those lessons to see how long it should take them on a lesson. And if they're spending an excessive amount of time on one lesson, we can go in, we can potentially, if it's taking them too long or if they're failing an amount of lessons, we could change their level, either vice versa. If they're just breezing through their lessons, we could move them up. We can make it a little more challenging. Maybe they just did not perform well on the diagnostic assessment, and we want to move them up. Or maybe you need to move them down. Maybe it's taking them too long. So we really try to look at that information as teachers. We also get indicators. So the teacher can receive a yellow flag, which they can't do anything about. Only the student can change that. The yellow flag indicates that the student may be struggling on a particular lesson. But iReady is very unique, and so it meets them where they're at. It picks up on when they're struggling, and it tries to change the lesson that's being taught. And often it meets them where they're at, and they can get right back on track, and then that yellow flag will disappear. However, if the red stop sign appears, this means that they failed the lesson, and then the domain shut off, and only the teacher can change that. So this is an opportunity as teachers for us to go in, to look at the lesson that they were really struggling with, maybe pull them up for a mini reteaching lesson, and then turn the domain back on. And you can see here what it might look like on our end. You can see their grade level, you can see where they're at, you can see the yellow flag and then the red flag and which particular domain they're struggling with. We also utilize iReady for a standards mastery assessment. So in addition to our diagnostic assessment, we can roll this out. Teachers could roll it out weekly if they feel like they've completed or mastered a standard, or we as a district, we have a pacing guide and we roll them out quarterly or every 4 weeks or every 9 weeks. And these assessments will trump their learning path. They must complete the assessment before continuing on their learning path. And they're very short, 5 to 7 questions, but they are very rigorous and in-depth to the standard. And we think that it looks very similar to how the end of the year KSA assessment looks. So we try to utilize these a lot. And then at this time, we have an abundance of resources with iReady. With the teacher toolbox, it also it syncs and it has a lot of information for our Wonder series. And there's just a lot of materials in here, and you can see with the reteaching, the preparation, the extension, and I'm going to allow our iReady consultant, Ms. Mary Catherine Pope, to share some of those with you.